The opioid epidemic not only affects the person going through the addiction, it has ripped apart countless families in this country. Mark is a former NYPD officer. He became addicted to opioids after being injured on the job. ESPN reporter Lauren Sisler from Virginia lost both her parents to opioid overdose within hours of each other. And James from Philadelphia lost his sister. She was a mother of two to a painkiller overdose. Mark, I'd like to start off with you because, you know, you look at these three people, clearly from the outside, very different. But on the inside, what you're going through is what America is going through right now. You're on the front lines of it. Mark, you got injured on the job. Take me through how it went from pain treatment, which so many people experience, to an addiction.
Well, my first experience with opioid pain medication, I was actually 21 years old, and I went to the dentist and got a root canal, and I was prescribed Vicodin. And from a very early on, I took them a little differently. Like, you know, I felt numb from the pain, but I just felt different on it. My first prescription was of 20, and I took those as prescribed, and then after my second prescription, I was taking them, you know, 2 or 3 at a time. By the time I stopped to go into the police academy, I was taking 50 to 70 a day.
A day?
Yes.
Did you have any trouble getting the prescription filled?
Well, no. But when I was up to 50, 70 a day, I was buying them on the street.
How difficult or not was it to get them on the street? It
wasn't very difficult at all. It is actually very common. A lot of people, once I started taking them and found other people who were taking them, it became like a small community of people who had pills. Everybody knew who had them.
So if you're out, you go to someone and you say,
yeah, pretty much.
I'm out, help me out.
It started very innocently. Like, you know, I would be talking to people and be like, oh man, the doctor just gave me these Vicodin, and I would save them when I was going out with my friends, and we would, you know, drink and take them. And then so-and-so would say, I take them too. And then it went from, to be honest, at first, something that was fun. Like, you know, it was just, it seemed like harmless fun to, that very quickly took over something I did in the beginning, which was very social, to became a very isolating.
So when you joined the police force, were you still using them?
No, if you would have asked me when I always wanted to be a police officer, and if you would have asked me if I was an addict, I would have said absolutely not. You know, I had no idea. I was very uneducated about what an addict was. I did stop the first day of the police academy, though. I went cold turkey.
Which I hear, I mean, people say it's impossible, but you did it.
I did it. I mean, I was in a lot of pain. It wasn't fun by any means.
Lauren, as I mentioned, and you heard the audience reaction, you lost both of your parents within hours. Were you aware that they were battling addictions?
No, just growing up, you know, I lived in a middle-class suburban neighborhood. It was me and my older brother, Alan, and really we just felt like we had that support, that loving support from our parents constantly. And both my parents had been experiencing chronic pain, had gone to a pain management doctor, and unfortunately it escalated from OxyContin to fentanyl. I went to Rutgers on a gymnastics scholarship, and I remember hanging up the phone that night and telling both of my parents I loved them, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
So nothing seemed out of the ordinary after that phone call, before that phone call? You were not aware? You didn't see any signs of?
No, and I think hindsight's always 20/20. You look back and you think, well, you know, that might be an indicator there. But for me, you know, I hung up the phone and just thought everything was routine and went to bed that night. And I remember my dad calling me and saying, Lauren, your mom died. And in that minute, I'm thinking, my mom's 45 and seemingly healthy. I don't understand. And then I get on the plane and he said, Lauren, get on the next plane you can. I'll be at the airport to pick you up. And I remember I touched down in my hometown and ran outside and looked everywhere. And my dad was nowhere to be found. And instead, it was my Uncle Mike and my cousin Justin who came to pick me up. And we're pulling out of the airport, and I finally worked up the courage, and I said, Uncle Mike, where's my dad? And he said, I'm sorry, but your dad passed away, too.
What happened? Did your father intentionally?
So that was a big question, and obviously, as an 18-year-old, weighed on me heavily for a long time, because you want to know your parents, somebody that loves you so dearly and is loved by so many, you want to know that they're there for you. And to think that this could happen intentionally, When the toxicology reports came back, they were both ruled accidental overdoses. But I don't think there's any way to really know the type of pain they were in, how much they were struggling, and not only the chronic pain, but of course being dope sick, obviously dealing with the addiction pain.
You kept this private for so long.
Yeah.
You're in the public spotlight. What made you decide to tell the story of your parents?
You know, I felt like I had their legacy bound in my hands, and so these secrets constantly, and so to know that they had died of overdoses, I could not use the word overdose or addiction in the same sentence with my parents. And so for me, it was keeping the secret and constantly telling the sugar-coated story to try to hide the truth.
What would you tell people before coming out and revealing what happened?
I would say my mom died of respiratory failure, which in fact she did, but that sounds a lot better than overdose, right? And then I would say, you know, my dad died of a heart attack. And, you know, unfortunately, my father had gone to the hospital, taken care of things, come home, taken the medication. And the hospital actually called him on the phone. He excused himself and he collapsed right there. But, you know, I know in my heart, even though they were ruled accidental overdoses, I know in my heart that my parents were there with me. And to be able to sit up here today, like, I know they're standing here with me, and to have that shame. And as a sports reporter, I spent so much time telling everybody else's story, but here I am not even able to share my own truth. And so it was so important for me to come out and share it with the world in an effort to help people.
James, that's what's motivated you as well. You wanted to share your sister Anaya's story. She died of an overdose. She struggled with getting help. As I know, she was a mom, a great sister, and the same motivation with Lauren. You wanted people to know what had happened to her. How long had she struggled with her addiction?
My sister struggled with her addiction for about 2 to 3 years, I want to say. But where I come from, like, we grew up in an urban neighborhood, and it's like, we don't know the word opioid as much. We familiar with Percocet or Perks, you know? So when the media broadcasts like an opioid crisis, we don't think that affects us. You know, it's like, it's trended. You know, it's trended in the music. It makes it feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so you're hearing opioid addiction on the news, and you're thinking, that's not what's happening in Philadelphia. That's not us.
Exactly, it's not us. So it's like a phase thing, you know, and us in the neighborhood, we'll take them and make them feel good. You might make us feel like it's popular, or in the music sometimes they promote it as a sexual enhance. So you'll get on these things thinking that it's the right thing to do, and that's when my sister fell in. So
how did you discover her addiction?
I discovered her addiction through social media. She'd get on social media and, like, you know, display what she was ready to do. You know, this is my shot, this is what I'm taking. Because that's, in an urban neighborhood, it's all it's done. Like, we would literally take a picture of Percocets that we're about to put in our body, like that's something normal to be doing.
So she didn't know that there should even be a stigma because this is what was happening.
Exactly, it's the norm.
It's the norm.
Like that, it's cool, it's what to do. And when you go on the TV and you see opioid crisis, we feel like it's not affecting us because it's only being displayed one way. Like, they don't really show the pill form, they only show it being ejected. So us as being African Americans, we're looking at, oh, that don't affect us, that's not us. So.
She left behind 2 children.
Yeah.
Why was it so important for you to be here and for her story and the story, as you pointed out, as it's perceived in the city, the big city, versus what we're hearing in the rural areas?
I just felt as though to take this approach because my parents don't look at it in this way. You know, I felt as though I should just come out with the truth and be real about it because I lost another friend in August to the same thing, but his parents didn't let it out. They didn't let it be known. I felt as though with me hiding this, that's just influencing my community to think that popping a perk is cool. And I just wanted to let people know, like, you know, my sister, she passed away, but she was struggling. You know, she was battling. So I don't really look at it like as a failure because she was fighting, you know? I just wanted to spread it to let other people know that if you own these things or if you're doing these pills, it's not a trend. You get what I'm saying? It's not who can pop the Merce or, you know, who look good with doing it because the outcome is death. Like, it's not really too many different outcomes when you're strung out on these pills.
3 families, 3 people, 3 different walks of life, if you will, but all a part of this crisis. And I keep saying it's not just these families, it's all of us. You don't know what your neighbor is going through, and they are our neighbors. In some cases, they are us.